The Buffalo Sabres as of late have been signing a boatload of extensions. Not only did you have yourselves the GM, Kevin Adams, who was extended earlier in September, not only did you have yourselves Tage Thompson, who was signed to a very big, very beefy contract extension for him, not only did you have yesterday the news of head coach Don Granato signing on an extension, but you also had probably the weirdest one of the bunch. And the one extension signed out of the four that we had mentioned so far, or three, this will be the fourth, that has kind of gotten the hockey world a little bit more questioning than others. Today, we're going to be talking about the Sabres signing of Mattias Samuelsson, and he might not be a name, honestly, that you've heard of too many times before because he was a rookie last season. He played for the Buffalo Sabres. He's only 22 years old. He's a 6'4", 227 left-handed defenseman, and he had himself 10 assists in the 42 games that he played. And he signed yesterday to a 7-year contract extension worth $4.285 million a season. Now, when this news was announced, the Sabres have signed Samuelsson to a 7-year, $4.2 AAV extension. It's $30 million if you do the math, but the reaction to this signing was a pretty mixed bag. Because not only did you have Sabres fans going out there and saying, "Whoa, okay, that is a signing right there, Kevin Adams. Okay, I kind of see the vision. I see what you're doing here." You had yourselves the non-Sabres fans all going out there and unanimously saying pretty much, "Who the hell is that?" There have been so many comments that I've read on social media the past 24-ish hours here, all saying pretty much the same thing. Hey, I thought I was a hockey fan. I thought I did a pretty good job at keeping up with the league and talking about players, talking about prospects, but who the hell is this guy? I'd never heard of this guy before, yet he's signed to a $30 million extension over 7 years. And I'm going to go out there and say it. This right here, this contract extension, it's a risk, for sure. You don't go out there and definitively say with all your heart that a guy who's only played 52 games at the National Hockey League level getting signed to a 7-year extension is a good deal. The guy hasn't even scored his first NHL goal yet. But at the same time, there is a method behind the madness, and that's what I wanted to talk about here in this video because when it comes to Mattias Samuelsson, he is, of course, inexperienced. I think it's fair to go out there and use that adjective to describe this player and the way that he plays, but when it comes to the way Samuelsson has transitioned as a member of the Buffalo Sabres, he's got a pretty unique role in this team. Samuelsson, as we noted, as a big left-handed defenseman, plays alongside of Rasmus Dahlin. Dahlin is also a left-handed defenseman, but he plays on the right, and it's actually pretty good for Dahlin to be playing in that position because he played like that in the SHL for Frölunda. He's utilized the right side of the ice to help him facilitate more offense, especially as a left-handed guy who is on his off side for shooting. He's a very good player, and we all kind of know how good Rasmus Dahlin is supposed to be able to be in the long-term future, plus you have Owen Power playing on his own pairing, so the Sabres have themselves a nice system of young defenders over there. But Mattias Samuelsson is the guy alongside of Dahlin, and he's kind of the yin to the yang on this D pairing. Where Rasmus Dahlin is the offensive dynamo, puck-facilitating playmaking defenseman who can hold onto the puck, walk in down the wing, and make some pretty good plays, Mattias Samuelsson is the guy who's not going to go out there and do that himself. Instead, he'll stay a little bit further back, he'll camp out a little bit more towards the blue line, and when the opposition takes the puck back, you'll usually see Mattias Samuelsson as the first guy back in his own zone, trying to disturb the rush. He's a defensive defender that kind of allows Dahlin to play Dahlin's game, and the dynamic that they had last season really did work, so much to the point that a lot of Sabres fans are saying, yeah, this is a really valuable player. Even though he doesn't go out there and scores points like crazy, he's still extraordinarily valuable. And he was already good enough to play alongside of Rasmus Dahlin in a shutdown role, that if the Sabres are going to go out there and try to capitalize on the potential growth of Samuelsson into the future, then a $4.28 million contract for the next 7 years until 2030 does not seem like the worst bet to make in the world. You take a look at other defenders in the NHL that aren't really point producers, but they're just good, solid defensive guys that really excel when placed alongside of those offensive dynamos. And making $3.5, $4 million isn't too bad for any of those players, especially if they're proven to be competent enough to handle top 4 minutes, especially in an extended role. The Buffalo Sabres are just really trying to say with Mattias Samuelsson that, hey, they see that here with this guy. It's kind of funny because all the comments in isolation make a lot of sense for you to err on the side of caution. The Buffalo Sabres just signed a $30 million contract to a guy who has played 2 seasons of NHL play, but who hasn't even scored a goal at the National Hockey League level yet. It really is not about the points when it comes to Mattias Samuelsson, but his value comes pretty much everywhere else. Now, because I'm going out there and saying all the good things about this contract, I don't want to go out there and discredit the idea that there is uncertainty as well. Here's a comment on the Our Hockey subreddit that I thought was really interesting to go out there and talk about here. John Klingberg signed a 7-year extension for $4.25 million a season back in 2015 after only 65 career games. That ended up working pretty well. Nikita Zaitsev, on the other hand, he signed a 7-year extension for $4.5 AAV back in 2017 after only 82 career games. That's ended up working out pretty horrendously. Here's Small Biz Owner 12345 talking about the individual stats of each of the contracts. In 2015, when Klingberg signed his contract, he signed a 5.9% of the cap deal. In 2017, Nikita Zaitsev signed a contract that was 6% of the salary cap, and now, today, or yesterday, Mattias Samuelsson signed a contract that is worth just about 5.1% of the cap. 1. This deal starts out much lower than both of the examples above when looking at the percentage of the cap, which is what matters. Number 2, a large driver of contract issues has been the flat cap, which will be lifted during this contract. And number 3, this deal has no trade protection on the player. Nikita Zaitsev was given a modified no-trade clause in year 3 of his deal. All 3 are similar, but not really comparable deals. You also have the idea that goes out there and talks about John Klingberg's first season in the NHL when he played 60-something games and got himself that 4-point-something AAV contract afterwards. John Klingberg had 40 points in 65 games, so it worked out really well because the guy was already on pace to becoming a very good offensively capable guy. For Samuelsson, you're not looking for any points. You're looking more so in the defensive capabilities, the two-way stability, and the security that allows a guy like Rasmus Dahlin to be Rasmus Dahlin. So, at the end of the day, if this goes really well, what you're looking at down the line is Mattias Samuelsson being an absolute anchor, a lock beside Dahlin, and the guy that really does benefit from playing alongside of Dahlin too, because, I mean, Dahlin's pretty good. I wouldn't be surprised if Samuelsson got a few extra points here and there because he's making some secondary outlet passes to Dahlin, who makes another pass to, I don't know, Jack Quinn in the slot, who ends up scoring. I would see Mattias Samuelsson getting a lot of secondary assists if things go the way that they could, with all of these players heading towards their prime years. But what the Buffalo Sabres are doing is they're capitalizing on what is already there. They're saying, okay, we think you're going to be pretty good, so we're going to sign you to a very long-term contract, and as long as you play like you did this previous season, you're probably going to be all right. Just go out there, be solid enough, allow Dahlin, allow anybody else on your penalty kill to do what it is they need to do, and Mattias Samuelsson's contract is not going to look like a Zaitsev contract by the time 2025 rolls around. Hopefully not, at least. So, talk to the comments your thoughts about the Buffalo Sabres re-signing Mattias Samuelsson, a 2018 second-round pick, 32nd overall, to a long-term deal. He's only played 50-something games, and last season he only played 40-something games, so he definitely isn't all too experienced, but he's getting the bag either way. $30 million or your first NHL goal? Which one are you going to get first? He's going to get the millions of dollars attached to his cap hit before finding the back of the net once, which is kind of funny, but talk to the comments your thoughts about the contract over here. Do you think it's as risky as some people are going out there and making it out to be? I think there's a little bit of risk, of course. It's not risk-free, but at the same time, it is a pretty interesting point to bring up when acknowledging why the Sabres have made this acquisition in the first place. So, talk to the comments your thoughts about the extension over here. We can also talk about Tage Thompson and his extension, Kevin Adams, Don Granato. They're all getting extensions nowadays because Buffalo is Buffalo. I hope you enjoyed this with Juraj Rolls 99, and bye.